Moolah Gang. So apparently 2 guys from Front Street in Euro City, Lil Mikey, got killed all in the same 24-hour span. Now y'all know the history with Chief Keef in Front Street versus OBlock. So I don't know. 29 years old sitting in a car at a gas station on 63rd and Drexel. 2 men pull up in a white Mercedes. An argument breaks out. One of them pulls out a gun and puts a bullet in his chest. Giraldo City Lil Mikey is dead, and the internet is on fire right now. Because within hours of his body dropping, OBlock members started posting cryptic messages on social media. No music, names, no direct claims, just enough to let the streets know exactly what time it is. And here is what makes the situation different from any other Chicago street. Casualty you have heard about this year. This is not random. This is not a robbery. This is not a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. This is 15 years of war. A war that started in 2011 and has never stopped. A war that King Von turned into platinum records and millions of dollars before it got him killed. A war that OBlock has been fighting for OD, for Von, for every name they carry, and now apparently for Lil Mikey's name to be added to their opponent's list. No cap. King Von hated 63rd with a passion that most people only understand if they have watched every single one of his interviews and really listened to his lyrics. Music. He did not just rap about it. He lived it. He made his entire come up on the back of that beef. And now the people he left behind are still carrying it. Stay locked in, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how this war started, how it swallowed FBG Duck, the man who was 63 RD's best shot at making it out, how King Von turned the same war into a career and then lost his life, and why Lil Mikey's death on March 27th, 2006, music, is proof that this thing is nowhere close to being over. OBlock, Parkway Gardens, 64th Street, and King Drive, one of the most documented housing complexes in hip-hop history. This is the block that produced King Von, Lil Durk's brother Dang, and some of the most feared names in Chicago street culture. And OBlock's main enemies for over a decade have been right down the road, literally blocks away on 63rd Street, Tuckville, Jaro City, STL. All of them branches of the same gangster Disciples faction that calls that strip of the South Side home. But here's what really went down. This war is not about territory the way most outsiders think about it. This is personal. This is about names, about people who grew up knowing each other, who went to school near each other, who lived close enough to see each other in the streets, and who have been trying to erase each other for 15 years straight. Music, the war between OBlock and 63rd, didn't just cost lives. It shaped careers. It shaped music. It put Chicago drill on the map. Globally, music. And it has left a body count that keeps growing even when the cameras and the media are looking somewhere else. To understand how Lil Mikey ended up dead in a car 2 days ago, we got to go all the way back to 2011, because that is where everything started. Let's rewind to January 12th, 2011, Southside Chicago winter. A 15-year-old boy named Shadale Gregory, everybody on the block called him Tuka, is standing at a bus stop on 63rd Street in St. Lawrence just waiting for the bus. 2 witnesses say a gunman walked up to him, asked if another bus was coming, moved behind a shelter, and then shot Shadale Gregory 4 times. 15 years old, dead at a bus stop. Now, this is important because Tuka was connected to 63rd Street to Tuckville too. The same gangster Disciples faction that FBG Duck, Lil Mikey, and FYB Jane would later come up in. His death hit that community hard, and the streets believe that OBlock was responsible. But the story does not start with Tuka. Before Tuka, there was O.D. Perry, a member of the Black Disciples faction in Parkway Gardens. OBlock was literally named after O.D. after he was killed. His death started the initial chain, and Tuka's death was believed by many to be retaliation connected to that chain. From 2011 forward, 63rd and OBlock are officially at war. But here's where it gets crazy. Both sides are producing rappers at the exact same time. Chief Keef is blowing up on the OBlock side. FBG Duck is coming up on the 63rd side. And they are not just rapping about the streets. They are rapping about each other, naming the dead, naming the living, posting on social media, fueling every retaliation with content. By 2012, take one. A 13-year-old connected to the 63rd community is shot and killed. The grief on 63rd is building. By 2014, names are dropping on both sides. The war has no off switch. And right in the middle of all of this, a kid from Parkway Gardens named Devin Bennett is watching everything, taking notes, getting ready to turn the whole thing into music. Music. This is where King Von enters the picture. And for real, the story of how Van came up is inseparable from this beef. Van was born and raised in OBlock, Parkway Gardens. He grew up watching the war unfold from his block. He lost people. He was connected to the culture from day one. And when he started rapping, he brought all of it into the music in a way that nobody else had done. Van's whole brand was storytelling. He did not just reference the beef in bars. He narrated it. He made documentaries in song form. Crazy Story took her to the O Killing Gang. He painted pictures so specific and so detailed that people who had never been to Chicago felt like they were standing on OBlock watching it happen. And the biggest target in his music, directly and indirectly, was FBG Duck. Duck was the crown jewel of 63rd. Music, real name Carlton Weekly, affiliated with Tookaville in Garrow City. His single Slide in 2017 went viral. Over 53 million views on YouTube. He got signed to Sony Music Entertainment. Music. He was on the verge of crossing over. He was a man 63rd, was counting on to put them on the map the way Chief Keef put OBlock on. But the streets do not pause music for record deals. In 2019, King Van took her to the O. The video is a visual narrative that directly references Duck and his late brother FBG Brick. Van plays out a scenario where he pulls up on someone matching Duck's description. The FBI would later present this video in federal court as evidence of intent and motivation. Then in July 2000, Duck dropped dead, underscoring the most aggressive discreet of his career. He named 6 deceased OBlock members by name. He was taunting. He was daring them to respond. 27 minutes is all it took. August 4th, 2020. Gold Coast neighborhood, Chicago, one of the wealthiest shopping districts in the city. It is 4:26 in the afternoon. FBG Duck steps out of a car driven by his girlfriend and stands in line outside the Dolce & Gabbana boutique on Oak Street. He is there to buy a birthday present for his son. At the exact same moment, surveillance footage shows 6 people running down a stairwell at Parkway Gardens. 2 vehicles, a Ford Fusion and a Chrysler 300, pull out and head north. The FBI would later trace those cars on camera at 7 different locations between OBlock and Oak Street. 27 minutes after Duck got out of the car at Dolce & Gabbana, those 2 vehicles pull up for mass shooters get out. 38 shots fired in 15 seconds. Duck is hit 21 times. Music. His girlfriend and another bystander are also wounded. By the time the shooters flee west on Oak Street, Carlton Weekly is dying on the sidewalk of one of Chicago's most expensive neighborhoods. He was pronounced dead at Northwestern Memorial Hospital, according to federal prosecutors. This was not spontaneous. This was planned. Someone in OBlock had spotted Duck inside a children's boutique earlier that afternoon and made a phone call. Within minutes, the crew was moving. The execution was coordinated like a military operation. A confidential informant told investigators 2 weeks after the murder that someone connected to Black disciples had placed a bounty on Duck's head, starting at $50,000 and eventually rising to $100,000. Prosecutors later alleged that King Von was a person who placed that hit. They pointed to Vaughn buying $128,000 worth of custom diamond obelisk pendants from an Atlanta jewelry store, some purchased after Duck's killing, as trophies distributed to crew members. Duck was gone. 63 RD's golden ticket was dead on a sidewalk in the Gold Coast, and OBlock was celebrating. But the story doesn't end there. While 63rd was burying Duck, King Von was ascending. The timing is brutal when you look at it. Duck died in August 2020. Vaughn had already been building momentum for 2 years. But the energy, the attention, the notoriety that came from being at the center of one of Chicago's most documented beefs, it was rocket fuel for his career. Van's album, Welcome to OBlock, dropped in October 2020, just 2 months after Duck was killed. It debuted at number 5 on the Billboard 200. It included some of his most raw and personal music. The culture was fully locked in. Vaughn was everywhere. Features, music, interviews, collaborations with Lil Durk through their Only the Family collective. He was making millions. He was becoming the face of Chicago drill for a new generation. He was 26 years old and at the absolute peak of what was looking like a long and dominant career. Then November 6, 2020 happened. Atlanta, Georgia. Outside a hookah lounge called Monaco Hookah, an altercation broke out in the parking lot. Shots were fired. King Vaughn was hit. He was rushed to the hospital and pronounced dead at age 26. The killing had nothing to do with the 63rd beef. It was a separate situation involving Quando Rondo's crew. But the irony is brutal. The man who built his career on street war, who survived Chicago, survived everything the South Side threw at him, was killed in Atlanta in a situation that started over a confrontation in a parking lot. Now, here is where the impact on OBlock becomes important. Van was the centerpiece. He was the one translating the streets into culture. He was the one whose music was keeping OBlock's name alive nationally and internationally. When he died, that engine stopped. The 6 men charged with FBG Duck's murder went to trial in 2003. All 6 were convicted. Charles C. Murder Legends, music, Marcus Mupt, Kenneth Kenny M. Robertson, Christopher Tsong Thomas, Tarlos Los Alford, Ralph Tall Turpin, all found guilty of murder and aid of racketeering. Some facing life sentences. Music. So, OBlock lost Vaughn, then watched 6 of their own get convicted and taken off the street. Then watched Lil Durk, Vaughn's closest partner, deal with his own federal legal situations. The block that once seemed untouchable was taking loss after loss. And through all of it, 63rd was still there. Fast forward to 3 days ago, March 27th, 2026. Music, 63rd, and Drexel Woodlawn, Jaro City territory. Lil Mikey, 29 years old, affiliated with Gerald City, known in the Chicago street community for multiple interviews where he talked openly about the beef in the block, is sitting in a vehicle at a gas station. A white Mercedes pulls up. 2 men get out. An argument breaks out. One of them shoots Lil Mikey in the chest. He is rushed to the University of Chicago Medical Center in critical condition. He does music not make it. And within hours of his death, social media starts lighting up. Now, I'm not going to name names or make specific accusations because music investigations are ongoing and the streets operate on a different timeline than the courts. But people connected to OBlock started posting things, cryptic things, the kind of posts that in Chicago street culture carry a specific meaning that everybody who knows knows. No direct claims, no names, but enough for the community for 63rd to read. Exactly what was being said between the lines. This is important because it fits a pattern that goes back to this entire war. Every time something happens on either side, the social media activity tells a story that the police investigation never fully captures. It is documentation without confession, celebration without admission, the streets communicating in a language that mainstream media does not always translate accurately. Here's where it gets real about why this matters beyond just another Chicago casualty. Lil Mikey was not some random person in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was a documented, publicly known figure from 63rd who had done interviews, who had talked about the history of Gyro City, who was known to the community as connected to this exact beef going back years. His death is not disconnected from any of this history. The war that started with Tuka in 2011 is apparently still producing casualties in 2002, 15 years and counting. Now, let me break it down for you because this is the part that most people skip over when they talk about Chicago violence. Lil Mikey's case is currently open. No arrests, music, no public suspects named, and the odds based on Chicago's own documented statistics are not in favor of this case ever being solved. Here's the reality. Chicago's homicide clearance rate has hovered around 40% in recent years. That means roughly 6 out of every 10 murders in Chicago result in nobody being charged. In communities like Woodlawn and Englewood in the South Side where this war has been playing out, that clearance rate drops even lower. Why? Multiple reasons. First, Music. The no-snitching culture is real, and it is enforced. Witnesses in these communities understand that talking to police is not just socially unacceptable. It can be genuinely dangerous. The same infrastructure that makes these beefs so lethal also makes them nearly impossible to investigate through conventional law enforcement methods. Second, surveillance gaps. Despite Chicago having one of the most extensive camera networks of any American city, there are still blind spots. Gas stations on 63rd and Drexel may have footage, but between the speed of the incident, masked suspects, and vehicles that can be switched out within hours, the trail goes cold fast. Third, the federal approach. The one time OBlock got hit hard was when the Fed stepped in for FBG Duck's murder. RICO federal racketeering. The FBI. When you elevate a street murder to a federal enterprise case, you get more resources, more surveillance tools, more cooperation leverage. But federal investigations take years, and they only happen on a fraction of cases. The average Chicago street murder. 2 men pulling up in a white Mercedes, 1 shot fired, victim pronounced dead, gets assigned to an already overworked detective in a city that had over 700 homicides in 2021 alone. The math is brutal. Music. Unless somebody talks, unless surveillance catches something undeniable, unless the case gets elevated to federal level, Lil Mikey's murder has a very real chance of joining the long list of unsolved Chicago homicides that the families carry forever. But the system never answers for here is what the situation is really about when you zoom out. No cap, King Von built a career on this war. He turned the grief of OBlock, the names of the dead, the trauma of Parkway Gardens into music that reached people across the world who had never set foot in Chicago. He made millions of dollars rapping about a beef that was killing people in real time. And then that same world caught up with him at 26 Music. In an Atlanta parking lot, FBG Duck was 63's version of the same story. He was the one with the real crossover potential. He was talking about peace before his death, posting on Instagram about stopping shootings in front of children, donating to families affected by gun violence, working with community organizers. His final Instagram video before he died was him telling people there needs to be a better path for young people. 27 minutes later, he was dead on Oak Street. And now Lil Mikey, 29 years old, a man who had survived whatever the streets had already thrown at him, who had done time, who had been through it, is gone. Sitting in a car at a gas station blocks from where this whole thing has been playing out for 15 years. For real, the question that this whole situation forces you to ask is not just who did it or why. The question is, when does it end? Because the math of this beef does not add up to anybody winning. OBlock lost Vaughn and 6 members to the feds. 63rd lost Duck their best shot at mainstream success. Both sides have buried people. Both sides have mothers and children carrying grief that does not go away because the Instagram posts move on. The war between OBlock and 63rd has been going since 2011. 15 years, multiple generations of young men on both sides have been drawn into it. Some are dead. Some, Music, are in federal prison. Some are still on those blocks doing exactly what they have always done. And the music that came out of all of this, the drill records, the diss tracks, the interviews, the documentaries, those will outlast all of it. King Von's music is still streaming millions of times every month. FBG Duck Slide still has over 50 million views. The art survived even when the artist didn't, but the war is still going. Lil Mikey's death this week is proof of that. The cryptic posts are proof of that. 15 years and the body count is still climbing. Drop in the comments. Do you think this beef ever ends, or does it just keep going until there's nobody left to carry it? We read everything. Subscribe if you haven't already. More stories like this are coming. We'll see you in the next one.